Yo, check it. Welcome back to another podcast episode.
I don't know, bro. You know what? I stopped keeping track a long time ago. We are on a roll, though. You know what? We definitely should. I don't know. We got to figure it out because our 50th, our 100th, we got to do something about those.
I know. The 50th episode's coming up.
What?
Very, very soon.
Oof.
Well,
How
We're-
soon? You should have had me on that one. I've been celebrating.
I think this is the 38th. So
I
We're
would
so
know.
getting
Done.
close.
We're getting wiser.
But
Right? With all the years.
but definitely the 50th one is going to be a special one. So we're
keep
gonna,
y'all's eyes out for that. Pretty
Oh
Yeah.
my goodness.
Yeah. But anyways, we got a very special guest.
much. Of course, always.
I even got her business card right here.
Because he doesn't remember who I am.
No, I can't remember all this. There's a lot of things going on in this
This
business card.
Here, show the viewers what the back of the card looked like, though.
Oh,
Look.
yeah.
Can y'all see that? It's nice. This is a nice business card.
Well, thank you.
But we have Cynthia Roy, and she's a yoga and holistic therapist. Am I saying that right?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yoga and holistic therapies.
Mm.
That can mean a lot of things, though, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, no, absolutely.
But for me, it only means some.
Okay. So we have are these your certifications?
Those are some of them.
Yeah.
Yes. Hmm.
Oh, really?
You want to read some of that? There's a lot of letters in there. And then she can probably, explain a little bit on what those are, because I have no idea what they are.
You're Reiki too?
Yes.
Oh, wow, that's crazy.
Read some of them, dude.
Oh, okay, yeah. Well, I mean, I don't know.
She was like, there's a
The
lot
Reiki too got me because I do know. But
I'm kind of impressed that you know what that is.
oh,
actually.
sometimes I keep track of.
Chris should know stuff.
Yeah, I know. So I like to be a little bit more on the spiritual side here and there. And
Here and there.
yeah, I love yoga. Yoga is a cool thing. But I didn't really do. I feel like there's levels of yoga where it's just like, oh, you go to this place and we'll do yoga, or oh, we'll watch this video, we'll do yoga. But I feel like yoga, which is another form of meditation in my book, as well as Javon, the other guest star, we were talking about it, and I don't know. I just like keeping wellness with yoga.
Yoga is such a broad spectrum
It
of
is.
things.
Mhm.
And traditionally, it actually is about 8 limbs, and the entry level of yoga is the asana practice. Is just doing the poses and going somewhere and being on a mat and actually doing the physical body
Mhm.
poses.
Which is pretty much what everybody else does.
That's kind of where everybody
yeah.
starts. I mean, somebody coming through the backside of it through meditation, which is what Javon has done, I think, and that kind of gives them a little bit of a different presence, I think, in being able to be in the body while they do yoga. So that's really good. I mean, I feel like mainstream social media and it has really taken yoga to a place of somewhere where it's wasn't originally meant to be.
Yes.
And
I
so,
agree.
I really, yoga is so many things, and it can, for me, I mean, I've kind of settled into where my heart center is in teaching yoga, is bringing yoga to people and meeting them where they are. And they could be on a mat, and they could be doing all these beautiful, lovely poses, or they could be in a bed, and they can be really ill or in injury recovery. So meeting them wherever they are is kind of where my niche is. And that's what I like to do.
That is awesome. She has, I don't want to mess any of this up, but she has ERYT 500, UZIT, CRTP, CVRTP.
It's like a lot of intimidating letters.
These are a lot of intimidating letters.
What any of those mean? Would you like to explain at least a couple of them?
Well, the ERYT 500 is simply just an experienced registered yoga teacher at the 500-hour level, and that's registered with Yoga Alliance. So, that just kind of talks about a little bit about my advanced training and how far I've gone in my training. The YACEP, which is not on there, it just means that I'm a Yoga Alliance approved continuing education provider. So that means in the workshops and the retreats that I lead that I can offer continuing education hours for pretty much anybody who is required to take them, like physical therapists or personal trainers, nurses. I mean, anybody in that kind of field where their organization accepts continuing education hours, I can provide that to them through yoga workshops and retreats.
That is awesome.
That sounds awesome.
That sounds pretty cool, to be honest.
It is pretty cool, because sometimes, when I was newer teacher and I had to keep up all my continuing education hours, I would pick workshops that I would love to go, that I wanted to learn, but I would also get credit for being there. So that was cool.
So when did you feel like this was your calling? Like, like I feel like.
All right, we're just gonna get on.
Oh, sorry, I don't know. I got really interested.
No,
Okay,
go
before
for it.
we started the podcast, she said that her favorite rapper was Eminem, and so going from Eminem
Don't hold it against me.
I know, right? A yoga instructor, and then she loves Eminem.
Yeah.
that's gotta be something.
Good combo.
It's a great combo.
My daughter still busts out when we'll be driving on the road somewhere doing something. She'll start busting out some rhymes from Eminem. I'm like, oh my God, I totally forgot about that. And she'll say it lyric for lyric. I'm like, oh, how does she know that?
Yeah,
That's a
mom
beautiful thing.
spaghetti.
Mom spaghetti.
That's funny.
That's my favorite Eminem line right there. Mom spaghetti.
Mom spaghetti.
Was that 8 Mile? Yeah, 8 Mile.
Lose
That movie was
yourself,
good
bro.
too.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's pretty cool. But I guess I just got curious as to how this journey started for you.
Well, when I was in a job that was kind of sucking my soul, I was making really good money there, but it was just depleting me. And that's when I started looking to something else. And of course, synchronistically, somebody would be put in my path to introduce me to what yoga really was. But before that, when I first started doing yoga, I actually started with PX90.
Oh, P90X?
P90X.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, that's what I'm talking about.
I did that too.
Oh my
I did that
gosh.
too, yeah.
I started that in 2010. And I loathed getting to yoga day. I was like, I really didn't like it. And I was, I can't say I was super fit then, but I was kind of active. But the yoga day it was just like, oh my God, it's yoga day. It was just terrible. And then I did that for about a year. And then in the job that I was in sales, I met a lady who would become my first yoga teacher. And she says, why don't you come to a real yoga class? And I went to my first real yoga class, and it was really hard. And right from that first class, I just fell in love.
Ooh.
I just fell in love with it. So I started doing yoga pretty regularly. Pretty regularly for me at that time when I could the time that I had to do was once a week or sometimes twice a week. And within a year, I went to my first yoga training. And so I went to my first yoga training, and it was a 28-day immersion. So I went to Nicaragua for a month, and I came back. And I came back, and I went to my boss, and I said,
I'm
I
done.
quit. Would you like notice?
Would you like notice?
Well, in
it's
sales,
not even
they
like I'll
don't-
give you notice.
Well, in the sales, they often don't want to keep you around,
Yeah.
for notice. So
Wow.
It's interesting.
Interesting.
I mean, we kind of jumped the gun there, but
Oh yeah, might be. I got curious. That's what happens.
Christian's a curious guy.
I'm a very curious cat.
well, that's good.
But let's talk about how we met. It was I met you like maybe a month or 2
It's
months?
been really recent,
A little bit
actually.
over a month ago.
We've spent quite a bit of time together since that month. And
Yep.
so we did meet through a mutual friend and business opportunity, which has been really fabulous and completely out of my comfort zone. And JERiCK, you've really helped me with that. So I appreciate that. I can't mention the name right now, but this is
Secrets.
This is going to be launched next month. And it is a platform that hosts a beautiful, really heart-centered startup that's focusing on health, awareness, mind, body, soul, activity. And their mission and purpose is like I said, very, very heart-centered. And like, how do we bring people together in a platform where we can share it with many?
That sounds awesome.
That's been really fun and
Yeah.
sometimes scary for me. Thank goodness you've been so patient.
Being behind is it just because I don't want to say too much. I mean, we have a camera here now. Is this kind of scary?
No, not really.
Oh, okay.
And this is kind of the thing we've been talking about because I've been in front of now. For the first time, I've been doing a lot of stuff in front of a camera. And my whole thing was when I first met this beautiful woman who was the founder, her and her husband founded this company, the startup. And she says, so what we would like to do is do some videos. And I'm like, nope. I'm not your girl. I'm like, my best interest is to where I can be with people and bounce energy off of them. And the way I teach is to be with people. It's to read the room, to read a person, and to put myself in their body. And so that's been kind of the challenge for me, is like being in front of a camera. I don't have that to bounce off of, so.
That's true. You don't really know who's viewing. I mean, when we first started a podcast, or when we first started taking videos, I'm just like, I don't know if I want to be in front of the camera.
Well, JERiCK got me warmed up for this, so I feel pretty good with this because I'm talking to people and still bouncing energy off of people. So you have actual conversation going in a dialogue.
Podcast is a bit different than actual.
Yeah, because when you're doing a video, you're just kind of talking to the camera.
Like I'm the only one talking, so it's just really strange.
Yeah,
I absolutely agree.
I'm still not used to it, and I used to do a lot of vlogs, and still very awkward on camera, but. You got to do what you got to do sometimes.
I have a dear friend who has a master's in filmmaking, and she said to me not too long ago, I was talking to her about this. I'm like, this is so out of my comfort zone. I don't know how I'm going to pull this one off. And she says, girl, she goes, even with a master's in filmmaking, she says, I still cringe when I hear my own voice playback or see myself on film. And after all these years.
Sounds about right.
And it's like, you talk to, like, you see a lot of those actors in reviews and interviews with people, and they're like, I don't even watch my own stuff. But in this case, we were required to.
Yeah, I guess we kind of have to review our stuff.
We have to review our stuff, so that's okay.
Yeah, because sometimes, like, I don't watch what I just record on the podcast, too, unless when I have to, like, cut the clips off. Just because... I was already here, and I already kind of knew what we talked about. So there's really no need for me to watch it all over again. You just scrub
to a good moment. You're like, oh, I remember that. Okay, let's all right, good point. Now you guys know behind the scenes.
Now you know behind the scenes. We'll see how much will be scrubbed. Maybe none.
We
don't cut stuff out.
We don't cut stuff out.
I was going to say, yeah.
It's all raw. All raw.
Yeah, so you can say whatever you would like to say.
I used to listen to Eminem.
So
that's my favorite rapper.
Stuff might come out.
So I guess before we get into
the
meaty content,
the good stuff,
we normally ask our guests, or new guests, sometimes returning guests, 2 questions, and we just like to get to know you a little bit better, and our viewers to get in touch with who you are. So the first question here is what is your current obsession? Man, I always
doesn't matter which one goes first.
But that's the question.
Current obsession, aside from Eminem.
He's no longer an obsession. It hasn't been for a long time. So what is my current obsession? Well, I would have to say that would be in the whole space of meditation is my current obsession. I'm not really sure if I should elaborate on that. You guys might think I'm a little bit weird.
Oh,
we always have weird people in the podcast, so it's okay. Yeah, you don't have to elaborate, but
just 1,000 other followers that you have out there.
I mean, that's a good obsession to have.
I think it's really, I don't know if it's called an obsession really, but I mean, that's something that I spend a lot of time with right now is that communication with spiritual guidance. I'll say that. And I find that much the juicy part of that within meditation. It's not always in that space. I mean, sometimes it's in the space of doing body work with other people, which is another thing that I do. And that's a place that I really like to be. And sharing in part of other people's experiences that are kind of coming into their own in that arena.
That is awesome.
I mean, it's important. It's important to be in tuned with everything around you.
Well, don't be mistaken. I'm not always in tune. Like, I'm certainly not perfect, but I do have my moments.
I mean, nobody's perfect, right?
Right? Yeah.
You can always just aim to a better version of ourselves.
I mean, I still do dumb stuff sometimes, and sometimes
we're only human,
right? Sometimes, like, the choices that I make now are not. There's more space in between of them not being a good choice. Like the space in between of those times happening now is starting to get a little bit of distance, which is great.
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. No, same.
All right.
I haven't done anything that's
Speaking
noticeably
of dumb stuff. I'm kidding. What's your? This is the second question. What's your guilty pleasure?
Yeah.
What is my guilty pleasure? Dang, that's a good one. I mean, because anymore, it sure has changed over the years. So I don't know if it's going to be as exciting to you guys
Go for it.
as it
It's
is for
gonna
me.
be,
But I mean, my guilty pleasure would probably, is activity-wise, would be snowboarding.
Oh,
Love that.
Oh yeah,
You
she's
can
a
never-
snowboarder.
what?
Dude.
You can never
She got a
be-
season pass.
There's nothing guilty about going snowboarding. I can tell you that. Nothing guilty.
True.
I love snowboarding.
I don't know, unless you like, unless you play hooky. I mean, that's a guilty
Oh, okay.
pleasure.
Well,
Every once in a while, I'm like, should I work today? Should I? Oh, I got so much to prepare. Oh my god, I got to deliver this to this person. Now I'm like, psh, I'm out of here for 4 hours.
but when
Yeah,
the powder's
sometimes-
fresh, you just gotta go.
Even when it's not.
Even when
Because
it's
right now it's
I love
not
that
off.
answer.
It's not fresh all the time right now.
That's where the guilty comes.
It's not fresh, but I'm still out here.
Yeah.
I mean, I don't have anything too crazy. I don't think. I like to enjoy a glass of wine once in a while, or every great once in a while. Like, which has happened, I think, more times lately. Is like I love Ben and Jerry's ice cream, which is something that I've never really liked ice cream that much. I mean, I like a once in a while, but my friends and roommates, they look at me kind of like funny because I can buy my little thing of Ben and Jerry's ice cream. It'll last me like a month in the freezer, and I'll go
Really?
and get just a few bites out of it,
That lasts me
and then
about,
put it back.
That would last me like 2 days.
that lasts me
or
about
one
an
sitting.
hour.
Yeah,
Right?
I could eat half of
So-
it, and then the next meal.
But
the
lately
other
it's
half.
been like I'll sit down and I'll have a really nice hot glass of tea at night, and then I'm like, I want some ice cream, and I'll eat half of it. You know, that's not like the worst thing. It's kind of boring. The guilty pleasure, I think, would be more along the lines of doing things that are like, I don't know, activity-wise. I love dancing.
I didn't know you dance.
Sometimes.
What's your
Something.
favorite form?
What's your favorite? What kind of dance do you
Yeah.
do?
I don't know. I kind of like the 80s music.
80s?
Yes, I like
nice.
dancing to the 80s music. Or it could be rock or weird pop or whatever, you know. I mean, as long as you can move the hips and get a little bit, beat to it, and not just be like headbanging, that's fine with me.
Well, music brings people together, so it doesn't matter when and where, as long as it brings you together, you know?
I guess so.
Yeah.
I guess so. I guess the big curiosity too for people is like dancing sober. Do you guys dance sober? When you go
All the
dancing,
time.
All the
do you?
time.
Do you?
Yeah.
Well,
I don't
not
even know if you
like-
guys even. But I mean, I think that's awesome. Like to hear that, because I think that a lot of times it's really associated with drinking and in that kind of environment, which sometimes that environment happens, but you just don't have to participate. But yeah.
I just like to. I mean, I'm not a dancer, but I like to move around. Like sometimes I'm just bumping music, dancing around my room.
Oh, yeah. I'm
Yeah.
I'm a
It's
serial car dancer.
in the car too. Yeah.
Yeah. You'll catch
Depending,
Oh yeah.
depending on what type of music comes on.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, back in the day, before we had like a whole lot of obvious things of like being on a phone with like hands-free Bluetooth with a car and stuff, where it looks like people just moving their mouth. You're like, who are they talking to? Back, way like
Yeah, yeah.
15 years ago, and you're like bumping and grinding and windows down and singing to your lungs. That's awesome.
Oh, yeah.
That is the good
Oh,
juicy stuff.
I still do that.
Oh,
Do
I
you?
do that
Yeah.
often.
Nice.
Yeah.
Often. Closed windows or open windows. I'm dancing.
Who cares? Who
Yeah.
cares?
Actually, me and my girlfriend, she's cute, but we will dance together in the car, and then we'll just mess around. And sometimes I ask her, "Do you think anybody watches while we're doing any of this stuff?" She's like, "Shoot, I don't care. I'm having a good time. That's all that matters."
I hope they're watching.
I
I mean, they
yeah,
should.
They should be watching.
They should be watching with a little bit of envy if they're not doing it.
And in turn, they should be dancing themselves. I feel like that'd be cool to just have a whole row of like people start dancing.
Let
in
it
the
be
car.
infectious, right?
Yeah, absolutely. There's
That's
nothing
right.
better in the world,
Yeah.
Here's a good idea for you then. So the next time you go through your Starbucks line or your drink line or whatever it is you go through, and sometimes you know how people pay it forward
Yeah.
to the person behind them. Pay it forward with the condition that
Oh,
I'm
if
gonna
they
buy,
dance?
and if they like sing one line from a song, like into the drive-in window.
Huh.
Oh, that'd be cool.
Wouldn't that be
That'd be
fun?
interesting.
That'd be hecka fun.
Yeah.
And so the person at the drive-in window has to hold them accountable. Like the car before you bought you, your next drink or whatever, the drinks on the house, but you have to sing one line from your favorite song.
I would do it immediately.
What line would it be from your favorite song? What would you
Oh.
sing?
My favorite. It really just depends what kind of favorite. I mean, I'm an R&B, R&B soul, so I'd
She'll
probably
be
be
busting
singing.
out some Marvin Gaye.
No, actually, I'm a boys to men kind of guy.
What?
Yeah,
Wow,
that's me.
how sweet is that?
Yeah.
Yeah, we're 90s, baby. Or not 90s, 80s.
89ish.
89-ish.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 89's to be exact.
Yeah.
Yeah. But boys to men, catch me on some boys to men. I actually took my girlfriend to a boys to men concert news.
Oh, that's fun. They were here in
Amazing.
Reno not too long ago.
They were well,
Mhm.
they're always here in Reno, to be honest. But the second time, well, the first time they were here, I passed them up. The second time they came,
Good. Still
it's
good.
still good. And I think they came here a third time.
So
Never
he's-
came.
oh, it was love. Like he's, so good.
It was. They were good, but when I was with my girlfriend, it was amazing. It was.
Mm.
That's like probably one of my favorite memories. To be honest.
What song would you sing? I mean, what line from what song would you come up with, JERiCK?
Oh,
I mean, it's
man.
hard to say unless you're in the moment, right?
Yeah.
Probably something to do with what you're already listening
Yeah,
to in
because
your
I think
car.
it's probably like
Yeah.
whatever I'm tuning into at that moment, I would probably.
Or would your mind
Listen
try
to
to adjust to something? Go, what song can I sing really well?
Oh,
Right?
I try that sometimes. I try that sometimes.
I do that in karaoke.
Do you?
Yeah, I'm
What?
like, I'm only going to choose certain songs that I know I could sing.
Well, that's
pretty
what we're
well.
all gonna do.
Yeah.
I've never done karaoke before.
What?
No, not yet.
You know the round one in town, they do karaoke rooms. It's fun. I love it.
Where?
At the new game place over there at the mall. It's called Round One. They have like
Wow.
bowling. They have karaoke rooms. We're not
Maybe we should
sponsored,
have
but
a
if
karaoke
you know,
night.
At like the Meadowwood Mall?
at the Meadowwood Mall.
Yeah,
I
they
haven't
have
been
a
in there for a little while.
yeah, they have a new place there. There's like
It's so
a
cool.
bar with
Yeah.
a lot of game stuff.
Yeah.
I haven't been. I mean, I checked it out once, but I didn't really do anything.
Maybe that's why I don't know, because you said a lot of game stuff. That threw me off for my age group.
No, it's for adults because there's drinks involved.
Of course.
It's,
Yeah.
it's
of
for
course.
adults after like I think after 11. They carded me. I was like,
11 p.m.?
I think so. 11 or 10. I'm not quite sure. But I know that I came in around that time. And they're like, excuse me, sir, can I see an ID? And I was like, thank you for making me feel so young.
Oh, my.
I mean, I still
Are
get
you
carded.
guys hearing this? Right.
Yeah, I'm 30 and still get carded all the time. Yeah.
You know, when I get carded, you're just like, are you just like trying to not make my day?
You're just trying to piss me off right now.
Oh my gosh.
But anyways, we're getting a little too distracted.
Oh, when a conversation is great, you know?
Yeah.
You just go.
But Cynthia had a great topic in mind. Would you like to... we don't have any structure
together,
in the
I think that
podcast.
together we kind of came up with this topic based on some of our recent conversations.
True.
And the topic at hand is how to be authentic in finding your voice and speaking your truth.
Ooh, I like that.
Like not just with the obvious stuff, but I mean, even with the hard stuff.
Mm-hmm.
But we can begin, I guess, talking about the easy stuff. And what does that really mean to people? Like, you know, speaking your truth in the rawness of who you are, really exposing who you are. Because I think that that's where the big fear comes with people, especially I think in our younger generation right now, is that there's such a fear in being who you are because of how people are going to react to maybe learning about who you are. And I think the big question is what have you got to lose? But we'll get to that big question a little bit. In a little bit. But, you know, but just even on the basics, there was a book I was telling you that I wanted to mention.
Mm-hmm.
And it's a very basic, simple, easy book to read. A lot of people out there have already read it. It's called The Four Agreements by Miguel Ruiz. And I think this is a book that every 8th grader should be required to read in the United States and all over the world in other languages. Because it's a really simple book that talks about honesty and being real and just, you know, having that piece of integrity and morals to where you can just kind of go by that all the time.
That sounds cool.
Do you want to kind of briefly mention what those 4 agreements are?
No,
No.
I forgot. I should have looked that up. But I mean, the biggest one was like speaking your truth. Like speaking your truth, you know, if you think about how often lies happen, I'm just going to say people lie because pretty much I think everybody lies at some point, whether it's tiny or big, huge. But I mean, looking at the little tiny things, the stories that we tell ourselves and, the stories that we have held on to from the past and how those have become anchors and how those change in the mind. And, and our memory is really fallible because our memory is going to be based on emotion and how it happened to us emotionally, whatever instance it was. And so it's very fallible and it kind of changes and alters at the time. But it's that, I think that emotional piece that we anchor to, the stories that we anchor to, that prevent us from, that keep that kind of fear and those walls up from people being able to share their real selves.
Oh, no, I absolutely agree. I feel like, actually, we had a really one of our. I feel like she's one of our coolest guest stars. She always comes around. She's always saying that you have to speak your truth. In terms of like the conversation that we had, truth is who you are, right? But people tend to hide that due to like negative experiences, like maybe a breakup or somebody didn't like you the way you are. Whereas like it should be those experiences that actually open you up, that makes you feel like why should you need to hide who you really are to people who may even just be for the moment, like you deserve to live the way you believe life is. This is your truth. It's your it's who makes you are.
I agree with you totally, but I think that in a lot of the cases it goes back way further and way deeper than that. And so I think that truth is in great part a reflection of your self-esteem. And so, I mean, what is self-esteem and how does one esteem the self in a world like that we live in today with so much social media and so much aesthetically pretty things out there? How do we accept ourselves and really truly love ourselves? And that comes from that place of self-esteem. And a lot of times those things are affected, a lot of that kind of creation of like not being able to be comfortable with ourselves comes from a lot of childhood stuff. And it could be, I mean, people hold on to things for different reasons. And I think the biggest thing is to have the courage to take a look at those things and ask the big questions like, what am I afraid of? What is it that I'm afraid of?
So where do you think all this insecurities are coming from? Like, I know a lot of people that are, I mean, like the way I view them, like I can see like so much potential, but they just don't believe in themselves. And it's kind of sad.
Yeah. Well, I mean,
because I kind of see like, man, like you can do so much better, but then you're like, oh, like I can't do it. There's too much. You think a lot to do with it is probably like maybe parenting because it's probably how you were raised.
yeah.
Like,
I think that it's probably. I mean, we're all we're each like a fingerprint. We're all our own fingerprint. Our internal environment, our emotional environment, our experiences. And though there might be similarities, I think where people kind of come together in those similarities and have understanding and empathy for that. But it's hard to really say. I mean, for me, the reason I can talk about this today is because I wasn't always like this. Like I didn't always have my voice and find my voice and be able to really become vulnerable about who I really am, what I believe in, how I feel about myself and how I express myself. And that took a long time. It took a long time for me. And that's why I'm so much, right now it's like when I was younger, I wasn't one of those girls that had a voice. I was very introverted and very quiet, and I could put on the mask for all of my careers and jobs and stuff like that. But when it comes to really exposing my true self, I mean, that's come way later. And this is why I want to talk about this conversation, because I think that, or have this conversation, is because now I can look back and maybe we can talk about some of these things and bring these up, and other people, it can maybe be a benefit to them.
Yeah. Before we get into that, I want to give it a little bit of context. Like, I don't want to ask. I mean, you don't care. How old are you?
I'm 50.
So, just so a context for you guys, she's a little bit older than us.
Yeah.
And just a little bit. And you said, like, when you were younger, you didn't really have your voice when did you
Lose my voice?
discover like, oh, maybe I should stop caring what other people think?
Ooh.
Ooh, that's a good one because I think that over time, actually, I would say just going to go back in like the last, well, not the last 10 years. So the first time I ever discovered that I really had a voice and needed to speak my voice was when I became an advocate. I had a daughter who had leukemia and she was very ill. And so during that time, I had always been very quiet and shy and just introverted, and I was required to kind of step up and be the advocate for her and really kind of be a little bit aggressive in my actions and getting information and getting educated about her illness and how I could support her. So I was 25. Actually, I was 26 or 27 when that all kind of began to happen. And then, that didn't have a really good outcome. A little bit of a sad outcome there, but don't feel sad for me because I experienced a lot of healing. I'm really at peace with a lot of I'm really at peace with anything and everything that's ever happened in my life right now. And I think that part of it has allowed me to have my voice and share about who I am and my experiences. So that was the first piece of it. And I think over the last 10 years, I have really done a lot of work on myself, a lot of internal cleaning. And as I've kind of gotten through the layers and more, but I would say I have to be careful when I say this because there really is no final piece or final layer. But I feel like now over the last, I would say probably 8 months or so, maybe a year, I've really kind of shed what I think is one of the final layers of fear about who I am, expressing myself in all areas of my life, like in all of my intimate relationships, in my business relationships, in my sexual relationship, and all of those things. So that's only come from me probably over the last year, that kind of like last hard layer.
So it just goes to show that, it doesn't matter where you're at and how old you are. Like these are things that still affect you. And I think it's pretty cool too that I mean, even though, I believe that people should proactively find themselves and speak a truth I actually like listening to you talk about it. It made me like think about the things that I've done as I don't know, we're 30, and so like the things that we've done. What have we done so far to speak our own truth? I mean, we started this podcast in order to be out there more. JERiCK was more. I mean, I feel like me and JERiCK were kind of like introverted. I mean, I like to. Yeah. I'm more outgoing and more outspoken, but
I'm still an introvert.
It's still
there's
like
a big piece of me that's very much. I don't know if I would call it introvert. Very private.
Yeah, absolutely.
But I'm also not a secret anymore, which is the great thing about it, and that took me a long time to get to that place. And the curiosity piece and just asking those questions, like when you start kind of reflecting, like, how authentic am I, or how much truth do I speak? And it really comes to a place where your own realization about your own, what level of self-awareness do you have? And when you start asking things, right, and people will ask you questions and you start interacting with other people, hopefully from now on, like since we're having this conversation, as you interact with your relationships, intimate relationships, or even if it's somebody you're not very close to, and things will come out of your mouth like that might be a codependent answer or a people-pleasing answer. I mean, all of those things matter. All of them, like saying things like if your girlfriend asks me, baby, how do I look in this dress? And you're like, you look wonderful no matter what you wear. And you're thinking, that one might make you look a little chunky, right? So think about those things, right?
That's true. That is true.
I mean, all the little hard questions, and that's just the obvious one, or I don't know. I
totally get it. With my past relationship, I mean, she didn't ask that specific question, but sometimes, like, I do catch myself just kind of tend to like what she really wants and like not necessarily what I was kind of into, which is, I mean, I was willing to compromise, but like I think it would have been better if I said no to like a lot of the things that I didn't necessarily want to do.
See, and I'm glad that you brought that up, and thanks for your honesty and rawness about that, because that's, doing something like that is really not only a disservice to the person you're with, but to yourself, because you're not allowing them to get to know who you are, right? And so how can they decide or choose or feel for you if they're falling in love with, if they're liking somebody that they don't know who you fully are, right?
Yeah.
I mean, I come from this, and I've thought this for a long time. I'm like, put yourself out there, and then I would rather this person decide that they didn't like me in like 6 months rather than 6 years, or vice versa, right? Like give them a chance to know the real you, because this is an investment of time. It's an investment of emotion. It's investment of intimacy. It's all of those things.
Yeah, because we just had Javon on the last episode too, and we were talking about like just be upfront, even like the first couple days that you guys are in. Like if this is not working out, like especially if there's two different people that just are like not clicking, like you should just be okay, like, oh no, I'm not.
Yeah, don't send a representative
Yeah.
to a date.
That's I've never heard that, but that's interesting because sometimes we do send a representative because we want to always
be our best behavior and
best foot forward.
How about this? Just don't swear. And don't, do things like pass gas. I mean, do the basic things you shouldn't do on a date.
The respectful things.
Right. But, I mean, I think it's so important. Years and years ago when when my daughter was in and out of the hospitals, and there was, at that time I was going through some difficult times in the marriage, right? And then there was other dynamics of the relation, our family relationship, and I really didn't understand. And I was like, I really feel like I didn't know this person, and how could it be that I didn't know them, after all this time and this family dynamic? And a lady said to me, of all people, a social worker. She was such an amazing social worker. I had not had good experiences with social workers previously, like in my younger life, but she said, some people just rise to the occasion. They rise to the occasion and they put on their best dress and they send their representative. And that's a shame, because then you fall in love with the representative. And when the representative isn't there anymore, what's left?
That's true.
Yeah, I like the representative term because we don't normally talk about that too. I mean, like we know that like stuff like that is happening, but we never.
I mean, and it happens in all aspects.
Like, yeah, not just like romantic relationships,
business relationships. I mean, like when you're first getting a job, and let's be honest, like that resume is your representative. You gotta sell
yourself,
and you gotta sell yourself. You gotta make yourself be the person they think is who they want. And so not just like relationships in general. And I think it's important to be genuine in all aspects. I mean, like obviously we have to do a respectful thing, but like when I see somebody on the street, if I don't want to talk to them, I'm not going to talk to them. But if I want to talk to them, get to know them a little bit, like we shouldn't be afraid to ask those questions, to be ourselves and show them, like, I mean, what's there to lose? That person walks away, right? Because you're not as genuine to them as you believe you are.
Well, and let's take that question a little bit further. What do you have to lose, right? What do you have to lose by exposing your true self?
That's like a question that I feel like is always asked, especially if in terms of dating. It's like, this beautiful girl, I see her and I just want to get to know her. And people are like, dude, just go talk to her. What do you got to lose? Yeah. Technically, what do you have to lose? Like,
yeah,
you barely know the person.
What's the worst that's going to happen if someone's going to judge you?
Yeah. They
like
say no,
how, and really, and actually, if you take a look at this, like in hindsight, I look at this and I had such a, apparently I had such a problem with this. Like the hardest thing I had to do was like really becoming myself, in intimate relationships, like around sexuality, like having that the sexual intimate, really like that deep, like that whole heart centered, whole body, everything is like being able to be myself and talk about things, right? And I don't know why, like for the longest time, I had a really difficult time talking about things like what do you like? What are your expressions? Like, what do you not like? What do you this? And a lot of that comes from a lot of history that I had, been exposed to. And really, again, what do you have to lose? Nothing. Judgment. What's the worst that's going to happen? You're going to be judged. You're not going to click. I mean, all the better to learn it early than later.
Yeah. One of the craziest things one of the best advice I think somebody's ever told me, it was during like one of those moments when I was like when I got out of a serious relationship, right? They're like, life moves on. And it hit me so powerful. Like, I didn't realize it during that time, but after I thought about it, I was like, life does move on. You meet new people. Those things that happened to you in the past, it doesn't matter anymore because life moves on and you continue forward. And if that same saying is, what do you got to lose? Life moves on. Like,
and to take that like one step further, like you think about things like what have you got to lose and like how painful can it be? And for me, it's the part that I've not really ever been afraid of, like the falling in love part. To the level I could experience love and understand what love is, I wasn't afraid of it. And the reason I wasn't afraid of it is because I lost a child and I thought that I couldn't imagine bearing anything worse than that, right? And like, you're not going to die of a broken heart unless, I think that there's probably some of those stories where, husband and wife have been together for 50, 60, 70 years. And then like one of them passes away and the other one's like, I'm done. I can kind of see where that happens. But I think today, I'm less afraid of those kinds of things because of what I've experienced in that part of it. But there also comes that dynamic too of like, how people say, the old saying goes, you can't love someone until you can love yourself. Everybody's heard that saying, right?
Yeah. Oh yeah, absolutely.
And I think that's not quite true. I think what's true is that you can love someone to the capacity that you can love yourself. Keyword is capacity, right? And
that makes a lot of sense, actually.
It kind of does, huh? I mean, when I think about that too, and you can love someone. How much love do you have for yourself? That is what you can offer someone else. And so when you think about, like we were talking about, like the whole scenario of like how you get into yoga, if you're coming through the back door, like meditation, yoga becomes easier for you. But and then if you come in through the door of, how do I learn to love myself more? I mean, that's a big, huge deal question for a lot of people. Like, what does that even really mean? And I think that for me, that just, it's the beginning of it, like asking those tough questions, but not to someone else necessarily, to yourself.
Yeah.
Those hard questions.
Man.
How to esteem the self? How does one esteem the self? In this culture, we're taught that we serve other people before we serve ourselves. And that's completely backwards.
Yeah. I think you should definitely take care of yourself before you can take care of others. It's kind of like that thing on the plane, put your mask on first before you
put someone else's mask on.
Yeah, because like you can't, like Javon said, you can't give what you don't have. So if you don't have a lot of love for yourself, then you can't necessarily give a lot of love.
You can give some.
Yeah.
I mean, like that's the whole capacity.
Right? Whatever you have.
Whatever, whatever you have, you can give.
So
and then so like asking the question of like, okay, I kind of feel like I have an idea of what, and even like over the course of my middle-aged years from like 30 to 40, those times those times were tough. I mean, as far as my journey inside, because part of my story is addiction, and I'm not ashamed to say that. But that doesn't define who I am.
Yeah,
right. And so. So during that time, it was more of, those years were, for me, not partying, because I had very successful careers and I did pretty well. And for me, it was like I didn't learn that piece of I didn't learn how to grieve the loss of my daughter, and so like that was kind of a numbing thing for me. And man, I was kind of a jerk. I was kind of a jerk, you guys, to some of you out there. I mean, during those times, you know, it's in terms of like relationships, because I would only get so involved with my heart. And when I, you know, at 39, I got clean when I was 39 and really just started doing some work and doing the hard stuff. Like it was like gutting out inside of an old house, just cleaning out all the emotional stuff, really coming into places of forgiveness. And forgiveness is a big, huge piece for anybody, whether no matter what's happened in their life, their experience as a child, like stuff that we hold on to, is sometimes you look back and you go, oh my gosh, that's so ridiculous. What?
Yeah.
Like what?
Yeah. I mean, like, if you can't learn to forgive yourself, you know, forgiveness is like a big thing. If you can't learn to forgive yourself, how can you forgive others too? Is what, you know what I'm saying? Like,
well, you can come in the back door of it thinking that it's somebody else you need to forgive, and really that peace just comes back to you anyway.
That's true too.
You know, it just comes back to you anyhow.
So, since we're talking about like self-love and how to get, what are some tactics that, I don't know if tactics is the right word, but what do you do for your self-love? Like, how do you bring more self-love to yourself?
How do you
I don't know.
how do you release the limit on that capacity so that way you can,
there you go.
you know, provide more love to to yourself as well? I guess. Is that what you're trying to get at? That sounds like right about it.
Well, I think that it's important to like find places and pieces in time where you can kind of slow down and reflect. I think reflection and contemplation is a big part of it. And to really, self-discovery is an inner journey. It's different for everybody. And writing is a big piece. I think when people can write and ask those questions, and you're like, everybody says, oh, you should journal. Oh, you should journal. Oh, everybody should journal. I think that everybody would be benefit by that. But they're like, I sit down, I don't know what to write. You know, it could be as simple as sitting down and writing, I don't know what to write. Right? And asking yourself, how do I feel right now? I feel lame because I'm sitting down trying to write and I have no words. And then why do I not have any words? And then breathe, right?
Yeah.
Right? And so you got to start peeling back the questions, you know, of getting to know that self-discovery piece, I think leads us to what you're talking about of discovering how do you obtain self-love? I mean, I think another biggest piece is listen to your thoughts. How do you talk to yourself? What are the words that you use when people talk to themselves on a daily routine? Like you might drop something in the sink and break the dish and be like, oh God, I'm such a dumbass, you know, like just listen to how you talk to yourself. That's just kind of a strange example, but a lot of people do it. Or listen to how people talk and judge. Listen to how you judge other people. Right? So really, everything that you put out there is just kind of a reflection of where you are yourself.
Ooh,
and then when you dial that down to like, I love it. I was watching this documentary the other day, which is so cool. And part of that piece was they're being able to measure your energy that happens in different places of your body. Is like once you think something, like the body meditation that we did the other day, right? As soon as you can experience this yourself, and when you think about your left shoulder, when you're like laying down in bed or whatever and you're quiet, you can feel the sensation in your left shoulder. So thought becomes form. So we know that. And they're now being able to measure that, which is kind of like, I mean, we already know it, but it's never really been measurable, and now they can measure it. So when thought becomes form, you know, your thoughts becomes your physical biology. So when you think negatively all the time and you speak negatively to people and you judge people, that's still a thought process. You know, you're just, all that biology gets stored in your own cellular data. You know, if you think about a lifetime of being not a very nice person, and people have like illness after illness, or people have like, I love Caroline Mace's teachings when she talks about archetypes and the victim archetype. People stay in that kind of cycle. They are like in this woundology cycle. Yeah. And they need to have that to be noticed. That's a sickness, you know what I mean? And I don't mean to say that's a sickness as we judge it, but it creates sickness within the your body.
So, I guess I've read studies, and I guess I've heard studies where if you're always like in that negative energy, or you're always like promoting a negative energy with not only around you but within yourself, that causes the illnesses. And if it's chronic, then it's just because you're not thinking positively about things and yourself around yourself.
Yeah, I heard like
Is that right?
stress like literally is killing you.
Yeah,
Like,
absolutely.
Very, you know what I mean? It's very like slowly and like minor, but
Yeah.
like every
I
time
think
you have
is
stress,
pretty
it's
much
just, like,
the
your
root of
body.
every kind
Yeah.
of cause and illness. But you talk to you hear people say they'll kind of counter this conversation and say, I know so and so, and this guy or girl is like 35 years old. They were active, they were fitness, they did this, like they were vegan, they did everything right, and then they got cancer and died. And you're like, well, there has to be more to that story, and more to the story might mean, I'm gonna go like off on a cliff here.
Go for it.
Uncut.
It might mean something that's part of your DNA that's, just kind of scripted in your life this time. Just kind of take the easy way out there.
Yeah.
And so you just don't know what people's life journeys are. And sure, that happens. And sure, we can do everything that we can do to try to prevent. But anything that we do is not a guarantee that something's not going to happen to us.
Mm-hmm.
But I'm all about prevention. I like prevention.
Yeah,
I like
absolutely.
that part of it. I like to put energy into my wellness of all of my bodies, the physical, the mental, the physical, spiritual, mental, and soul bodies. 4. I say there's 4, not 3.
No, I absolutely agree. I always tell, I think every time Javon comes around, I'm like, you gotta have your physical, mental, spiritual, and emotional self. They gotta be intact. They gotta be like, everything needs to be, because they all play off each other. And if they're off balance, if you're off balance, you're not promoting positive energy within yourself, and that spreads out to everything around you as well.
It does. And so I'm going to follow this kind of whole thing up too, is that, so for example, like sometimes when you go into a meditation class or a yoga class or something, like, oh, let's just sit here. Oh, let's feel the joy. And like everything's about all the bright and fluffy side, but healing truly happens through the shadows. And that's what brings us into those areas. So to say that, we can always be positive. And I mean, real stuff happens in life.
Yeah.
And you get curveballs. Like you get these tests and these curveballs often in your lives. Like just when you get those places of breath where you've peeled a few layers, and you've healed through that and you learn and you're like kind of like riding up on this wave. And then inevitably you're going to get some sort of, curveball that's going to happen in life that's going to really rock your world. And it's going to cause you to look at how strong and how deep are you rooted in all of those things that we talk about of positivity and wellness and balance and all that stuff. Those are all tools to where, once you start practicing those things, the dips aren't quite as low.
Yeah, because it's easy to be positive when everything goes right. But
that's
then
right.
when, when shit happens.
That's right.
Yeah. People, tend to kind of like, like I'm not sure what to do.
Well, I feel like, I mean, like you were saying earlier, like if you were to drop a glass in the sink, well, what do you say to yourself? I mean, I'd probably be like, oh, well, I mean, I guess I could buy a new glass. That's kind of positive. Or like you can't just say, oh man, I'm a klutz, because that'll promote negative energy within you. Whereas like, oh, well, I mean, maybe I didn't need that glass. Or I mean, you just gotta look at it in a different form. And I think it's not just, I mean, I guess maybe that wasn't one of the best examples, but like say you're doing like lifting and you don't do, I mean, I haven't been able to lift the lifts I've been able to, but I sit there and I think it's okay, because there's always tomorrow. I'll be able to lift it just as much as I did before. Just trying to promote like positive reinforcement in the things that I'm doing. That way, like the next time I come back, I'm a little bit more stronger. I'm a little bit more better in that mindset. So is that what you're trying to?
I think I was just really just kind of pointing out, like just kind of taking being aware of how you speak to yourself. and however that is, and being the self-awareness key is like, I think that that's a really good replacement word for common sense. Because common sense has been played out a lot, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
But to really have self-awareness, I think it's a great offering to our own spiritual well-being, and as well as other people around us. But yeah, you just drop a glass, shit. Glass all over the floor. Let me get the broom, like no big deal, you know. But when it comes to bigger things in life, like, I mean, I'm not above dropping an F-bomb once in a while when stuff happens.
Yeah.
Just not perfect.
Yeah,
by any means.
sometimes you just gotta. It's more like a.
So it's
you
good.
just gotta let it out, you know.
So you're saying it's good to to get in touch with that. I mean, like, okay, well, this was kind of my example. Earlier today, at my 9 to 5, like, I had these people calling me, and like, do I let these people, their negative energy affect me? And I'm like, I'll be like, man, that sucks. Like, why you gotta be this and that? But for that moment, and then I moved on. Is that what you're trying to say? Like, you gotta allow yourself to be in that moment.
It's really easy to get caught up in somebody else's like negativity, especially when you're in a work of customer service field, because inevitably, I mean, stuff's gonna come at you that's just like, you wish you could just walk out of there and you're like, got some dust on here, and let me get this stuff off.
Yeah.
In a perfect world, we'd just be able to dust it off. But the truth of the matter is like, when you're in a field like that and you're having that stuff come at you a lot of times, it becomes a practice, right? And so for me, like, this is kind of funny that you asked this, because I was in sales and actually I was in car sales before I got into yoga.
You're a car salesman.
Well, I don't know how I ever got in that line of work, but I did. And I want to just say that I had a lot of support during that time, because I needed a lot of support during that time. And it's just the little stuff. The negativities. You could be in a car deal for 4 or 5 or 6 hours for one deal, and consumed by a person's life stories. And sometimes they were cool, but sometimes they were not very cool. And so, how do you just dust that off and, just dust it off like it's dust on your shoulders and go home? And it's like literally a long time of soul sucking experience. You're like, I just gave up 6 hours of my life for what? So, and that was a big part of me that was like life changing. When I discovered yoga, it came at just the right time, because I was 4 years into my recovery and I was ready. I was ready to go on to the next thing, the deeper stuff, the more spiritual stuff. And believe me, I made some choices that were like the shift of income to love, right?
Yeah.
And so at first it was like, whoop, it went way down. And so we're trying to, in the Cole coming back and loving that out, it's coming too. But it was totally worth it. Totally worth it for me. And, I think that right now we're coming into a time where people are able to hopefully get into more heart-centered lines of work for those people who have the self-awareness. And the ones that do have the self-awareness, they will go down that path. They will.
Because I think a lot of...
Not everybody is self-aware. Let's just I'm just going to say they're not self-aware, and not everybody can heal, which is really unfortunate, but it's true.
Yeah, and I think the sad part too is like, it's more people than you think too.
You never know what
that are
the
self-aware or that
struggles
are unaware.
That are not self-aware. Yeah.
Well, it's like the whole common sense thing. It's like
it's not as common.
It's not as common
Well, right.
as you think.
And then you also take a look at knowledge and like knowledge, having knowledge and knowing, two completely different things. You can have a ton of knowledge, but if you don't know that within yourself, what does it mean? It means you have a lot of knowledge. And so let's kind of go back to like the whole self-talk, right? Of how let's dig a little bit deeper in that and get a little bit more raw, because it's one thing to like drop a dish in the sink and like, oh man, that was whatever, you say, but like, let's kind of build on what you said. Like, so you're lifting and you're not lifting as much lately as you previously had been. And you kind of give yourself the pep talk in your head of like, that's okay. That's all right. I'm not in the right space today. And tomorrow's a new day, which is fabulous. But let's boil that down to get into an intimate relationship. Let's bring that into an intimate relationship.
Bring it back to the dating scene. Let's go.
Well, because these ones are the tough ones.
Oh, yeah.
Now, whether the business relationship, it's a business intimate relationship, a partnership, or a friendship, or even a family member, or, the intimate lovers relationship. And take a look at like when you're not feeling adequate or whatever, for whatever reason, maybe it's the clothes you're wearing, maybe you're having an off day, maybe you didn't lift a good 3 days in a row and you had this big, huge photo shoot. Like, I mean, who knows what it could be? Or, you're just feeling a little insecure that day. I mean, how does that happen now? Like, how do you talk to yourself during those times? I think it's a little bit different for a woman than it is for a man, but I don't think it's, it's not like miles apart.
You wanna start this off? Since you're
You
the
know
one
what I'm
that's
getting
bringing it up.
Well, I mean, it's like, having those like little insecurities, like sometimes like, I don't know. Let me give a good example here. Let's start this one easy.
I feel like this
let's just jump in the deep end.
So, for example, and I'm gonna let you guys play on this. So, like, even watching, I was making this joke the other day, and like, oh my gosh! So we had our little meeting on our thing that we can't say, and we were looking at videos, some of the video content that we've taken. And I'm like, well, I thought that was kind of funny that I felt a little bit better in realizing that JERiCK has a wide angle lens on his camera, right? Because they're shooting all these yoga videos, and like kind of like
distort a little bit
from behind, and like everything in the middle just goes wide. And I was like, So I was talking to my boyfriend. I'm like, baby, I'm going to be a fatty. Like, I'm going to have to go back on keto. He goes, I don't even know what you're talking about. Like, what are you even talking about? You always look. And I'm like, and here's the thing is like, he's like a person that would not say that unless he really meant it. He'd be like, nope, you're looking like you're getting to be a fatty. If I was, which is the cool thing about him. But like in those little places of insecurity, right? That's just an obvious one. But when you get down to the nitty gritty, what happens with the self-talk then? Right?
Yeah.
And I think that part of the piece of self-awareness is like hearing, how do you talk to yourself? And the more importantly, once you realize or hear that, that's when you start to ask those questions of, okay, where is my self-esteem? Where is my personal power? Like, and how much of a voice do I have in speaking how I really feel right now with someone?
Yeah, it's funny that you mentioned that, is because for me, I don't know why, but I've always been like very confident guy. When it comes to, viewing myself and like my abilities. But when it comes to romantic relationships, I do have some insecurities when things are not going right. So like, let's say I don't feel that my love is being like reciprocated, and then I kind of question myself, like, what am I doing wrong? Like, how should I be better? And then that's where all the insecurities come. Like, maybe I should do this, do that, trying to please her. But it's like a constant struggle of like, if I'm by myself, I'm like totally confident, but then when it comes to somebody else, a romantic relationship is, sometimes I deal with those. Like,
I think that we've all dealt with those before. And I think that for me, the hard part, again, has been the communication and talking about things, right?
Yeah.
And so I've never really been one to be like date people. I've, would have a relationship and then have a period of, absence for a while and then maybe get into another relationship. And so each time I would come out of that relationship and go, okay, what was my part? Like, what can I do within myself, as I see my part and where I didn't really have that, openness and ability to talk about those hard things like that with my partner. Like, I wasn't really good at communicating it. And so then each time, like, and I'm just going to go back in 10 years right now, because that's kind of like where there was a defining, time for me. and take a look at it and go, okay, I was not very good at expressing who I was. I was not very good at communicating when I'm feeling insecure, or maybe I'm feeling insecure, and asking that person, okay, this is like, how are you doing? Like, this is how I'm feeling right now. Is this just me, or is this a reflection of something I'm feeling with you? And it gives them the opportunity to open up and talk too. Now, it doesn't mean that they're going to.
Yeah, because I think.
But it means it gives you practice.
Yeah, sometimes when you.
We like practice.
Yeah, when you ask those like tough questions, like you don't want to ask because you're kind of scared of what they're gonna say too. That's like one of the insecurities that.
What movie was that when they'd
It's
say,
like,
walk toward the light, walk toward the light? So this is like the principle you can apply. Walk toward the fear. Just
true.
do it.
Yeah,
do
it's like
it.
sometimes like, oh man, like if I ask this, man, like you never know what's gonna come out of that question.
See,
It's
and that's
just-
what we're talking about, your
Yeah.
true, authentic self, and how do you express who you really are.
True,
It's
true.
easy to do that in all these other relationships. When it comes to those romantic relationships,
Yeah.
and you start to engage in that place of fear, that's where the magic is. Because when you get out of your comfort zone, that's where growth happens. And here's the kicker. Like, maybe approaching this thing is like having those conversations and asking a question. And how about try this one? Ask the question without having any attachment to the outcome.
Yeah, that's
Think about that for a second, what that really means. Not having attachment to their response.
'cause I think it's like the
Or
expectation
expect
is the
even a
yeah.
response.
Yeah, the expectation.
How about you be the one putting yourself out there on the tightrope without anybody there to hold your hand?
Ooh.
And doing it for you.
Yeah, yeah. That'd be an
That's the
interesting
real
conversation
deal.
for sure, though.
Yeah, because I think I don't know, like I mean, that's a very deep question, and I don't want to like step back, but it's just funny when you said that. It's like don't have an expectation, like don't be tied into whatever the response is. It's kind of like approaching somebody like like when we used to go out and like try to.
We expect
Yeah.
the outcome to be good.
Yeah, so we never made our move because our like, oh man, like if she says no, then it's just gonna
Same
gonna
thing with
ruin
the
me,
same thing with the question then. So that if you expect an answer, or if you pretty much if you expect an answer, a good outcome of that answer, then you're not really.
I think
feel like you're not really listening.
I think
not
you're
really,
like
getting in there.
expecting the answer that you want.
Yeah,
You
everybody wants an answer that they want.
Because it's like, yeah, there's an answer, but you kind of want the answer that you want too. So it's
But
that's
here in
like
those times again,
yeah, that's why you
ask
gotta
yourself,
like,
what do I have to lose by asking? What do I have to lose by sharing?
That's even
See,
better.
and that gets
Yeah.
down to the nitty gritty. Like, that's just like boiling it down to like way down in here, right? And maybe practicing. You guys, you go out and you talk to a lot of people, and just ask people, strangers, whatever. Just be in a grocery store or whatever, be in a line somewhere, and just ask a real random question to a stranger.
yeah. Oh, it's funny that you mentioned that. It was
I feel like I tend to ask these questions.
Like, dude,
yeah.
what color are your socks?
like
Right? Don't ask them about their underwear. They probably won't be wearing
like
any.
I didn't do I've never done this in the
Sometimes it
past, but like I just like I saw this cute girl at the gym yesterday.
Okay. Good story.
No, I didn't go too deep to it, but like
This guy.
I was like, oh man, this girl's cute. And then she's wearing like like a cool hat, and I was like, should I say something? In my head, I was doing my sets, and I'm like, should I say something? No, because like I don't want to bother people at the gym. And then I was like, I've never done stuff like this before, so.
You know,
And then like after I did my set, I was like, you know what? Fuck it. I was like, oh, I like your hat, cool hat. And then I just gotta walk away. I was
that's baby steps, though.
Yeah, exactly. Like.
You know the way I have found myself approaching those things is like I don't really like, that's a big kind of a not normal for, that wouldn't be something that I would be doing, but
Yeah.
On the outside of that, like if it is something I'm doing and something I'm feeling, I have walked up to somebody and looked them right in the eye and said, I am totally out of my comfort zone here, but I'm gonna say hi anyway. So hello, what is your name?
Ah.
Just boom, put
Yeah,
yourself
yeah.
on, put yourself on, boom.
Yeah,
And
it's
then she's probably gonna be like, damn, that was brave. My name is
Exactly.
so-and-so.
Yeah.
I mean, who knows?
Like, I'm really scared
that's-
right now to do this, but hey,
Sure,
what's up?
And just like own it right from the start.
It's like Eminem, 8 Mile.
I mean, what do you got to lose?
He basically like put it all out there, and then like the other guy couldn't say anything because he basically talked.
Just walk toward it. Just
Yeah.
walk toward that little piece of fear, that one little obstacle that's
Mhm.
holding you back.
I think it's
Or
important.
even when you
know?
think about that, go, what do I actually have to lose here? Is that my lone little hit to my ego?
Yeah, because I said that I said that in my head too. I was like, what do I really have to lose? Like,
Did you?
yeah, like
Is
if
this after our conversation that we had that one time, or not too long ago, or was it before?
it was after.
Nice.
Yeah, so I was like,
Practicing
you know what?
already.
There we
It's,
go.
it's like I have nothing to lose. Like if I don't say anything, I'm still gonna be at the same place.
Yeah.
You know?
Mm-hmm.
If I say or I don't say, it's still gonna be the same.
I think
So,
it's even better when you do it with like somebody you feel attractive to.
yeah,
Because like
because there's a lot of pressure.
Yeah. I can certainly go up to any random stranger.
But it's
and do
only
it.
your own pressure.
Yeah, exactly.
It's like
Yeah.
they don't feel any of it. It's all your own stuff.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like if it was like not somebody that I was attracted to, like like I don't care, but like this girl's, I'm a little intimidated, but I did it anyways. So
You're a little.
I took the win.
Yeah.
Got the W. Even though it's a really tiny W.
That's okay.
A W's a W,
Baby
man.
steps,
Exactly.
right?
Even if it's
a
like
W
this
is a
tiny.
W. Should have a bumper sticker that
Win's
says
a
that.
win. But yeah, maybe the next step is if I ever see that girl at the gym again. No.
Who knows?
Maybe
Yeah.
she'll come around, but like, nice workout. Or maybe she's thinking about the same thing you're thinking. Like, how do I compliment this person who just complimented me yesterday? You know?
True.
You
You
just
never
never
know.
know.
Ripple effect.
It is ripple effect.
You know what? And really, you don't know where somebody is at in their own space. And maybe you really just made her day.
Yeah.
True.
I mean, maybe you just really made her day by giving her that really quick compliment. And she could probably see that you're a little shy, a little bit like whatever, but you did it.
yeah.
You did it. There's a story that I like to share that I heard from, I like to follow this spiritual teacher. She's actually a medical intuitive. Her name is Caroline Mace. She's been teaching energy anatomy for a long time. And I was reading one of her books and listening to I was actually listening to one of her audiobooks. And she talked about how, like, you don't know how people, like, how powerful your words are and how powerful your presence are. And she gives the example and she says, what if you were walking down the street and you were like, this is like in her day of like, if you're going to have public transportation in New York City or something like that. And you sit on a bench, waiting for the bus, and you see that there's somebody next to you, and the somebody next to you, this woman next to you, is lost, and she's obviously been crying, or she's, and then instead of being afraid of her, like looking at her and asking her, like, how was your day? And the woman doesn't say much, and she finally responds, like after a little time, just giving her the space. My husband just died today. And then, not being, again, afraid of that and just looking at her and saying, well, may peace be with you and your husband. And what are you going to be doing for the rest of your day? Like, just keep the conversation kind of like slowly, just participating and being present and not being afraid. And then not knowing that you may have saved her life that day. You might have, just by your kind words, made enough of a difference to shift her in whatever place that she was at. Things can become very powerful, and a lot of some of the trainings I've done as the Urban Zen Integrative Therapy, it has been about being with dying and being with patients and how to truly not have an attachment to the outcome. So how do you really be in this place of like pure love with someone, pure presence, without fear, without being afraid of their dyingness, and without having an attachment to their outcome?
Yeah.
That's pretty powerful.
Yeah. I think attachment to the outcome is like everybody should, or not having any attachment to the outcome should what everybody
It's a
should
good
be aiming
practice.
for. Yeah.
Right. It's a practice like anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, you don't just like arrive.
Mhm.
I mean, you have many arrivals along the way, but you've never really fully arrived.
True.
Unless you're Buddha. He didn't arrive till he died.
Ooh, came that
Deep.
zen.
Yeah, it was.
Many arrivals along the way, right?
Yeah, I had an interesting story. Yesterday too. I was driving. I was kind of like in a bad mood a little bit. I was driving around Target, and then this little girl, she was just crossing the street. Right, I was in a bad mood, but she looked at me and she was just like really smiling at me, and then I was like, oh, I smiled back at her, and then like it made me feel better.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I was like, man, a total stranger, like
Just a
little girl
little
just
bit of
crossed the
kindness.
street,
Mhm.
and then she smiled. She was just like really smiling at me
Yeah.
and staring at me, dude. I was like, oh, thanks.
Just goes to show, even a smile,
Yeah,
even a smile.
Well, and receiving it is great. It's also great to give it too.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah,
you,
yeah.
Give it,
to for to be
absolutely.
that one that's looking at that homeless person on the side of the road and not judging them. That's just like, man, even if you don't know what to do, bless you. Just bless them in some way.
Mm-hmm.
yeah. This has been really awesome conversation.
It's very eye-opening,
Yeah,
I
she
know
dropped
I'm
some,
more talkative, but I like to
sometimes it's good to listen,
I
man.
like to listen and tune in, And if you guys are out there who have been tuning in this whole time, thank you very much for that. If you guys have any, experiences or thoughts about it, let us know. Leave a comment.
Yeah, we'll definitely have her back so we can expand to other stuff.
Yeah,
I
we've
know
already
she-
talked.
I know she.
We've had previous conversations
Yeah.
that were real deep.
I know she
probably
has
not
a
ready
lot
for
of-
the first
yeah.
one.
I know she has a lot of good things to say. So
Yeah.
we'll save that for the next one. But we
Thank
have
you.
a couple more questions for you.
Yeah.
Uh-oh.
Yeah.
Oh,
Just
shizzle.
to
Oh,
finish
shizzle.
to finish the podcast off. But one question is, what should people learn? Anything that you think would be valuable for
A valuable
people.
lesson for any situation.
Yeah.
And it doesn't have to deal with like what you're.
well, we just talked
what we
about,
just talked about, yeah,
anything.
absolutely.
Yeah.
What should people
Yeah.
learn?
So I mean, like, if you feel like somebody needs to learn how to open a bag of chips, and that's cool too.
I think that people should. I think a good place to start is to start to ask the questions, like get a little curious about life and about themselves. I think the curiosity is what is the beginning pieces of, the self journey, if that's what one is interested in. And then I guess that's a very general question. What should people learn? How about a little bit of kindness? A little bit of kindness goes a long way. Just be kind.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that.
Just kindness.
Yeah.
You never know. Kindness is a good thing. No,
Yeah.
I absolutely agree.
Last question. This is very general too. What are you grateful for?
Wow.
I feel like we don't get asked
Usually
this
when
a lot.
somebody asks me that, I think I first thing that goes through my mind is what just happened is what am I not grateful for? It just takes over that question, right? What have I not been grateful for? And
That's cool too. Like you recognize, you recognize something, and you put power towards that.
well, I do experience a good part of each day finding gratitude in something that I might have overlooked, but there's always pieces that we overlook.
Mm-hmm.
And so I think the biggest thing that I'm grateful for today is my health, and our health. Without our health, we have, everything else seems like to deteriorate.
True.
So I think health is a big one. I mean, our bodies, everything that our bodies allow us to do. And, I was with a friend of mine recently passed away. And in this situation, we were talking about, because the whole theme of this podcast has been how to find our truth, like how to find our voice and speak in truth, communicate and express. Well, he was deteriorating with cancer quite rapidly. And it came to a point where the question was, should he get intubated with a breathing tube because his oxygen was going really low. And I was spending time with him one evening, and his wife wasn't there. Amazing, amazing woman. I love her. And he asked me that hard question, Cynthia, what would you do? And
if you were
so here was the question. It was like, would I get intubated? In the condition that he was in, which is really very poor, and we all suspected that it would be just a matter of time. And he asked me, he's like, and those are hard questions, when he was a great friend that we've had traveled with together, and we've had really deep conversations with, and he knows that I'm not going to lie to him. And when they ask you the hard questions, you're like, oh, God, that's a tough one. And I said, it's really hard to say for anybody who would be in your condition what they would really do.
Yeah.
Is the breathing tube going to save their life or not? And he says, you're not answering the question. Would you do it? And I said, no, because that would take, he lost the use of his limbs, and he couldn't write. That was his last form of communication, was through his voice, which was very minimal anyway. And so to build on the things of like, what are you grateful for? There's so many things to be grateful for. And I think that our health has to be like really, really up there. And it's a balance. It's a balance of health.
Yeah, because I don't normally think about health too. Because I feel like maybe because I'm a little bit younger. Yeah, when I think about what I'm grateful for, like health doesn't usually come to mind, which is, it's a great answer.
I've had brushes with death myself, so I think that's a big way at the top for me.
Yeah, absolutely. Nobody really understands. At least in this day and age, we have like fast food, and we have, I see the health part of it, but people don't understand that the other aspect of like, oh, okay, well, I'm just gonna eat this because I'm hungry now, but you don't think about how it affects your body adversely, and I think it's just important to just be. Because at one point, when do you ask yourself, is this good for me?
Yeah, and I think to go back to that too, is like what you consume. What you're talking about is like, food for your physical body, but
food for
what
your
you
mind
consume
as well.
Feed your body
for your
like
mind
you appreciate
too.
it.
Yeah, absolutely.
Feed your body like look what it does for us. Imagine if we couldn't walk or couldn't do things or couldn't make love.
Yeah, ooh.
That would be terrible, right? But think about all those things, right? Yeah. Getting down to the deep questions again is like all those things that we're grateful for. Mm-hmm. Feed your body like it delivers to you. Mm-hmm. Show it a little respect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Show a little love.
And not
temple
just
you want it to
not
be.
just the good food, but also like whatever you consume in your mind.
Yeah.
Yeah. Read
any
great
consumption,
books.
to be honest.
Yeah.
Just treat your body.
Lots of great books.
Oof, yeah.
I think that one, the 4 Agreements, is a good one. But if anybody who's looking to learn a little bit more about our energy centers and how, thought becomes form, there's a great book by Caroline Myss. It's called Anatomy of the Spirit. Ooh. And it was a really good, easy to read book about the chakra systems, our energy centers, and how it equates to people getting illnesses or preventing them or healing from them based on the way we think, based on the way how we hold our emotions, based on our traumas that we've experienced. If some people have those, probably everyone might have a little bit of that to different degrees, but it's a pretty interesting book. It's easy to read. Anatomy of the Spirit.
Nice. Well, whoever's listening, check it out.
Check it out. You'll become a better person.
Yep. All right. You want to, for your last moments of the podcast,
yo, check it.
Go for it. Shameless plug. Whatever you want to plug into the podcast.
Check your plugs.
Yeah. Whatever you got going on in your life.
The plugs I have are going to be left over for the next conversation we have. Whatever I have going on in my life. Well, lots of cool stuff. So, I do a form of body work that is with essential oils and vibrational healing with frequency healing. So that's kind of a plug-in I would like to add in there.
Yeah, I did it. It's amazing.
Ooh.
It's amazing. It's not a massage. It's more like it's using frequencies to run them through your body.
Oh, really?
Tuning forks, essential oils.
That would have been a cool thing to see.
I can't.
Oh,
do it. It's a private thing,
private thing. Oh, guess you guys just
So-
gonna have to experience.
Well, actually,
that yourself.
it's a vibrational raindrop technique therapy,
Mhm.
and I can tell you what it is because we're going to be doing something and putting it on my website. But it's not a course that I can teach because it is a trademarked teaching.
Mhm.
So I can't really teach that, but pretty soon we'll be having a little bit more of a shout out for my website and having that more of an explanation on my website via our awesome videographer here.
Cool.
Yeah.
So the plugin is thank you, JERiCK.
Yeah.
Christian.
So keep an eye out on that if you guys are super interested.
And what's your website? Is it live? It's live.
It's live. It's cynthiaroy.com. Super difficult to remember. It's my name.
Yeah.
.com.
Cynthia
Cynthia Roy.
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 .com.
Yeah.
So check it out.
Yeah.
Is there any?
It's
other-
gonna have some improvements pretty soon, so be patient. But it is still there.
That's cool.
Yeah.
Cool.
That's awesome. It's always
Thank
awesome.
you.
Is that it for all the shameless plug?
Yes.
Yeah.
Don't you know me by now? You know I don't like talking about myself that much.
That's all right. We can talk
Yoga.
for you.
If you guys want to try a beginner to intermediate yoga class, I still teach one public yoga class, only one a week. It's at 5:15
Mhm.
p.m.
Mhm.
at the Nevada Urban Indians. It's really easy, beginner. It is mat yoga.
Mhm.
So it's come and check it out. It's by donation. Simple enough.
Oh,
Oh,
awesome.
come
So
check
what is it?
out.
what day is it again?
Wednesdays at 5:15.
Wednesdays,
Wednesdays at
5:15.
Nevada Urban Indians Inc. in Reno.
Nevada Urban
Yeah.
Indians.
So if you live in Reno, go check it out.
Hey,
Like I said, it's a simple, easy class.
cool.
All right.
I know a couple of friends actually would probably want to
Send them over. Yeah, we won't blow them out. I don't like to have those yoga classes where it blows people out. Those are like different styles, which I still teach once in a while, but yeah.
Cool.
All right. That's awesome. Thank you for coming to a podcast.
Thank you
Yeah.
guys, JERiCK, Christian.
Hopefully
it was a pleasure.
Hopefully it wasn't too difficult or
No, how'd you like it? It was good, right? It was,
Yeah.
You know, I felt like I learned a little bit more about the spiritual self. You know, it's really nice. I like it.
That's good. I'm glad to hear that. Now we just get to practice.
Yes, absolutely.
the next time she comes on, it's gonna be some
Ooh.
deeper stuff.
Ooh. Stay
all
tuned.
all the juicy stuff.
That was good. Be juicier than what this is now.
Stay tuned to that. All right.
All right.
See you guys later.
Bye.
Peace.
Later.